Grace and peace to all of you from God and Jesus Christ. My name is Adam Vander. I work as the faith-based educator and researcher at the Highlander Center, a movement school in the mountains of East Tennessee, as part of a Louisville Institute postdoctoral fellowship program. I also organize with Christians for Free Palestine as a member of the CAP National Leadership Team. In a moment, one of our comrades will make space for lamentation. Another will remind us of the situation in Gaza as it relates to children especially. For my part, I want to think together briefly about agency, about action, about the claim that today's gospel story has upon all of us. In my study of today's gospel text, many theologians wrestle with God's perceived actions, with what God apparently did and did not do. God acted to warn and protect one family, for example, while others endured the horror of mass infanticide. Why, exactly? How could God do or not do such a thing? Others focus on Herod's actions. It isn't God that slaughters the innocents after all. It's Herod, they insist, and they're right. Herod was notoriously vicious, of course, and while the historical record shows no clear sign that today's story happened, it does align with how Herod the Great acted otherwise. What about us as disciples, as followers of Jesus, encountering and entering into this story once again? How does this story act upon us in a second consecutive Christmas season in which the Israeli state continues its ghoulish and sadistic genocide in Gaza? And how are we to act upon this story in return? Unlike so many other Jesus stories, following Jesus in this one would lead us away from danger and conflict. Today's text being what it is, we might say that Christ is decidedly not in the rubble, as it were. He and his family have fled to safety. This alone is rather disorienting, at least to me. Consequently, we are left bearing witness to unspeakable state violence and inconsolable grief. Grief that is in fact not an abstraction to me, having lost a baby boy of my own just 2 years ago. In this story, Herod is very much present. Bethlehem's baby boys are very much dead, and their parents are very much devastated. All this, but Jesus and his parents are at a safe remove in Egypt. Perhaps the absence of Jesus gives us pause and occasion enough to listen more attentively to the cries of the innocents, not just as expressions of terror or grief, but as summons. Perhaps it gives us pause and occasion to listen closely for sacred guidance that emerges amidst these cries. In my ear, I hear the summons of 4 particular people. The first is Palestinian pastor and theologian Reverend Dr. Mitri Raheb, who has said frequently over the past several months that many Palestinians long ago stopped asking where God was and started asking instead where everyone else was, where the world was. The second voice is Palestinian journalist Bisan Auda. Auda insisted not long ago that only ordinary free people struggling in solidarity with Palestinians will be the ones to end Israel's genocide in Gaza, not presidents, not politicians or prime ministers, but ordinary free people, people like you and me. The third voice amidst these cries is Palestinian American legal scholar Nora Erekat. Weeks ago, in conversation acknowledging the profound global crisis moment that we face and the profound asymmetry that characterizes it, Erekat explained that she has started drawing upon guerrilla warfare theorists to help think through this struggle, given the overwhelming asymmetry that characterizes it. Last, the late Jesuit priest Daniel Berrigan, who wrote decades ago, quote, "We cry peace, and there is no peace. There is no peace because the making of peace is at least as costly as the making of war, at least as exigent, at least as disruptive, at least as liable to bring disgrace and prison and death in its wake." End quote. How do we move amidst the cries of today's text? How do we negotiate our respective abilities, capacities, obligations, and social locations to meet the summons we hear in these cries? How we move will tell us something about our Jesus movement. Let us, at the very least, move then with courage and conviction and solidarity. Amen.